Welcome to the Outer Realm with Michelle Desrochers and Amelia Pisano. Airing live on the United Public Radio Network, 105.3 FM in New Orleans.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Wednesday night segment of the Outer Realm with myself, Michelle Desrochers, and my bubbly companion, Amelia Pisano. We are broadcasting live on the United Public Radio Network, UFO Paranormal Radio Network, 105.3 FM from the Gulf Coast and 107.7 FM from New Orleans. We are fully sponsored by the amazing people over at Folgers Coffee who have been a part of our journey since the very beginning. So thank you, Folgers. It wouldn't be the same without you. Also, big thank you to Dr. Snick, the sonic surgeon, a.k.a. Justin Snicker, for his contribution of his time, his music, and his voice for the intro that you just heard. He's an award-winning composer of Halloween, horror, sci-fi, and dark wave electronic music, which can be found on all of your favorite music platforms. Also, big thank you to Steve McGinnis, the artist behind the banners and logos here at the show. Check him out on Facebook and Instagram. Also specializes in the horror genre, but does phenomenal commission pieces of any kind, including, graphic novels, things like that. So check him out. Tonight, we welcome back John Polk. And he's been on a couple of times talking about UFOs in Sedona. He does phenomenal UFO tours, Vortex tours, power spots throughout Sedona. Tonight he's going to be talking about ghosts and hauntings, different paranormal experiences that he's had out there. And let's face it, we all know Sedona is just crazy energy on many levels. So,
transparent almost.
Yeah, I mean,
no veil.
What doesn't Sedona have? Oh, hey, Z-Sun. First one in tonight. So, yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I looked it up and because we've talked to him about other things before, but I never searched Paranormal Sedona. I've always looked at the spiritual side, and I didn't realize how much, of course, there's going to be a lot of paranormal activity there. I mean, it's crazy. And they even call it Little Hollywood.
That's great.
It says here, during the golden era of Westerns, almost every major studio and every famous film star came to Sedona. Hi, Wayne. To make a movie. Most of them Westerns. After World War II, it was not uncommon for two film crews to be in town shooting at the same time. That's a big deal back then.
Well, I mean, I think, it's always been sort of crazy, but I mean, has Sedona ever not been a big deal? I don't know.
I don't know, because World War II, you're talking about the 1940s. I now want to watch, hi Janie, I now want to watch a John Wayne Western just to see the background.
Right.
So I
just have to double check one thing here, because I'm told that chat room is not happening. Yeah, chat room's there. We see it, Wayne. We see the chat room, so I'm not quite sure what you're not seeing, but it's definitely there.
Try your glasses.
Maybe just go back out, come back in. I don't know. But without further ado, see, he does see it. Yeah, they're responding. My goodness. All right.
Yay.
Guest of honor, Reverend John Polk. How are you?
Good. Good. Glad to be back.
Oh, it's great to have you. Wow. Looks nice and sunny where you are still. It's like pitch black over here.
Yeah, we're 3 hours behind you. So
yes,
we never change time. So we don't fall back.
Stop bragging.
As it
Well,
should be.
Stop bragging.
it's confusing for podcasts because I was 2 hours behind you last time, and now I'm 3 hours behind you now.
Oh, I know. It's so ridiculous. Honestly, it just drives me crazy. But I'll tell you, I've been waiting very patiently for this specific, segment because my origins tend to be, much as I love high strangeness and I've come to embrace everything because it's all so connected. And I think we've talked about that a lot in the first couple of shows that you did and talking about UFOs and the different connections that people were having on a paranormal level and power spots and how interdimensional beings come through. And here we are, with the roots of everything, being, paranormal and hauntings. And Sedona is just crazy haunted to start with.
It is. So when I first got my job working for one of the biggest UFO sighting tour companies in the world, we also did ghost tours.
Right.
And my former employer, she told me, she said, now that you're here, a lot of people will come here and get chewed up by the consciousness and pooped right back out again. And a lot of multi-million-dollar corporations, even a multi-billionaire lost his tail a few years ago here because it came in with the wrong consciousness. So her point was, pray to Sedona, Arabella Miller Schnebley. Ask her permission to be here in the first place. And then be grateful for your job because you're I'm the only person on this planet that does the tours that I do between UFO, Ghost, Vortex, and Native American Medicine Wheel in Sedona, Arizona. So she's like, be very appreciative. Pray to her every single day. Give back in any way that you can. And no, it's not about the money. It's about the people that you work with and helping galactivate them, raise their consciousness to a higher vibration frequency so that they can connect with the other side better.
Right. Yeah. I completely believe that that's the place to do it. I mean, just the power spots alone. I mean, you don't know what's going to come through there at any given time. And, seriously. I mean, we talked about that the last time you were on because we covered a lot of the power spots and such. And you've said you've had so many experiences yourself. Like when you do these tours, do you go to some of these really, I guess, famous locations within Sedona, or do you have a specific area that you've investigated? Like, what does your tour entail?
Well, for Ghost, I go to where Sedona's buried, which is maybe a half a mile from my house.
Wow. And
it's perfect. So I sent you some videos, and there were two of the last three things that I sent. And so what we'll do, we'll do a guided meditation and do a field of protection around us, we bathe within the love light, right. And make sure everybody does it and that they're sincere, do a breathing regimen. Air is full of elementals, and elementals are spirits too.
Yes.
And Native Americans will teach you that, to breathe in great spirit. Be very conscious of what you're doing because you're breathing in spirit, and that spirit will tune and charge the water in your body also.
Wow.
So it's so very important to stay positive, even especially when you have no reason to be positive. For UFO, I go all kinds of different places. I like to challenge myself.
Mm-hmm.
I like to, I've never been there. Let's go there,
Right.
Or you have an Airbnb. Oh, I can do it in behind your resort. We can go out in the middle of the forest,
Mm-hmm.
or I can do it from my driveway.
Right. Well, I love, the dimensional forest beings that come through. You end up with, like, do you guys have fairies in Sedona?
Absolutely, we do.
Oh,
Okay.
Yeah, and orbs also.
Right.
So you can prove scientifically that certain orbs will communicate with other certain orbs through binary code. It's like, what are they doing? And if you zoom in on some of them, sometimes you'll see a face inside the orb.
Yes.
Sometimes it looks alien. Sometimes it looks ethereal, ghost-like, whatever.
And orbs are tough because, there's so many scientific things that an orb can be: dust, pollen, dander, moisture. It's really difficult. So when you can catch one, because you can get nice colored ones as well. But when you catch one with a face that's doing really erratic things.
Oh gosh. They're fabulous.
Oh, yeah.
There's no question.
we had occasional ones at our old home, and the house was empty for about 4 months, and there's no forced heating, nothing. And there was nobody in there to stir anything up. It was January, beginning of January, and these orbs would like come out of the lights and go into the mirrors. And sometimes they'd go 2 by 2 and they do things like this and just,
Oh, it's a very haunted location.
well, I'm pretty I'm
yeah.
pretty on it going, okay, no, that's dust because we just walked through. But for 4 months, like the house was haunted, nobody in it. It was interesting. So, if you can get orbs and connect them somehow and they're communicating with you. I love when you can substantiate it with, let's say, if you're doing an EVP and you're recording visually audio or video recording yourself as well. And then as a voice comes through, then you see this orb that's like touching your arm or something. And you kind of go, oh my God, something just touched my arm. Things like that really make it credible, especially.
Yeah, I agree. So I've been thinking a lot about this topic. And the one thing that was the most prevailing thought is that the word ghost is used interchangeably with all kinds of other terms.
Right.
And very often it's grammatically incorrect. So as I do on all your shows, I'm going to, disclaimer and say, I don't know everything.
Okay.
I have very educated guesses based on, since I was a child experience. I'm almost 55. So I have almost 50 years of experience working with ghosts through my mother, who started me out as a child. So if I used the wrong terminology, then I probably did. But some of the terms that can be used interchangeably with ghost are spirit, apparition, angel, which in Greek and other languages, the translation is messenger. It's not what we think angels are. Plus, they all appeared physically in the Bible. I call them the archaliens instead of the archangels. Fourth dimensional shapeshifters, skinwalkers, earthbounders, ascended masters, wendangos, extra dimensionals, and ultra terrestrials. And the list goes on and on. And so very often when I talk and others talk about this subject, we use interchange of not be exactly correct. But in my mind, who cares? Because nobody exactly knows how to explain it exactly.
Right. No, I love it. I love it. I mean, and you're right. It can be just about anything. There are things like interdimensional beings or dimensional beings that, for example, I think a lot of it depends on your background and your faith. Where somebody looks at, a Christian might look at a demon as a demon. A ufologist might kind of go, wow, reptilian.
Yeah,
I think it's a matter of perspective in some cases. And maybe here's another word. And this is something that, our producers always been like, it could be this. But I think another word would be dimensional bleed through.
I'm just laughing because Joe says it weekly.
Dimensional bleed through.
And I'm like, ladies. I'm like, oh.
Yeah, but it's possible.
No, I know. I just like to annoy Joe.
But that being said, we have Bradshaw Ranch, which we've talked about on the last couple shows, and that is our Skinwalker. That's our Skinwalker Ranch. That's our Area 51. And there's been stories of people that have gone out there, and they'll go through some dimensional shift, and all of a sudden they lose their bearing. They're not sure where they are, and then all of a sudden they'll see an Indian tribe with teepees and a fire, where they had that dimensional bleed through.
Yeah.
Or even like where they'll unzip the fabric of space-time.
Yes.
And they've been something like this and sticking their head in and going, oh, and pulling their head back out because they realized they weren't supposed to do it.
Right.
But yeah, a lot of that activity occurs here. That's for sure.
We have so many power spots.
Are old. Yeah. Right. Yeah. All the neighborhoods in Sedona are very old. There's a lot of wars that took place here. So therefore there's a lot of earthbounders that don't even realize they're dead. My house is completely lit up with paranormal activity. I've had friends watch crystals fly off of the refrigerator and crash in the middle of the floor.
Wow, sounds violent.
Well, and it never is. You always have to look at it as I'm loved and unprotected. But then, I've had, girlfriends that have lived in the house where we hear all kinds of knocking and it scares them to death at first. And I have to let them know, if you're scared, then you're going to bring that in.
That's going to make it worse.
Yeah, but know that you're loved
Don't
and
do
protected.
that. And then they're like,
Yeah. So
Well, it'll also
yeah,
cause them
but
to
in the
project energy as well, right? Out of fear.
yeah, exactly. Just like Yoda, fear leads
Right.
to the dark side.
I love Yoda.
I know.
I've never watched a Star Wars film, but I love Yoda.
I know.
I love
Really
Yoda.
baby Yoda.
Right.
Yeah, I'm a Star Wars freak. So try.
Never
There is
seen
no
it.
try. There's either do or do not. There is
That's
no
right.
try.
And he's not wrong. He's not wrong. No, I think mindset is very important when you're dealing with different beings, because aside from the fact that they know what you're thinking, and if they want to put fear into you, they can. I think elementals are very good at that, being, earth spirits, and very
Mm-hmm.
protective of the area which they're at. You have to go in, I think, with very positive vibrations. I think it's very important.
Yeah, absolutely. That's why
Otherwise, you're feeding them, right?
Yeah, that's why I do a little ceremony
Right.
before we get started, pretty
Right.
much with everything that I do.
Right.
So it's important, because now I've laid the groundwork for the kind of spiritual energy that I want us to be surrounded with.
Right.
And it's always love, light, and consciousness. It's
Right.
nothing less than that. And then,
Right.
when you're a medium, like I think all three of us are,
Mhm.
things will pop into your field, and then sometimes they can disguise themselves and
Mhm.
send a false vibration frequency at you that feels like family. It feels familiar.
Right. Right.
So if I sniff it out, which I
Tricksters.
usually can, I'll bring them into the light. I'll
Right.
bring them in, and if they come into the light, then they can just go away. And that's
Mm.
that's the way I've always done it.
Yeah. It takes a
Mom.
minute. It takes a minute to, realize that there's a mimic. A minute for a mimic.
Yeah, I like that.
Mm.
Yeah.
Mm.
And I used to teach classes at the biggest psychic center in town. It's called the Center for the New Age.
Mm.
And I was the only man there at one time out of 17 readers.
Wow.
But that being said, it was just an incredible experience to work with people. For example, in 2 consecutive days, I had 2 ladies that were single mothers, and their only daughters both died. One was murdered, and one got killed in a drunk driving accident where she was a passenger in a car where they got hit by a drunk driver. And so now
my goodness.
imagine the responsibility. You got to communicate with their family, and they are waiting for you to mess up, and they're not going to give you any information, and you don't want them to. And you talk about the most ultimate responsibility you could ever carry in your life, because these women came in. I remember I'm hugging and crying with them. I never met them before. Had no idea this was even going to happen, especially twice in 2 days.
And would you agree? Because I'm sure we will all agree. When it comes to mediumship, especially with vulnerable people in this situation, they really will hang on everything you say. So you have to be so diligent, because they're leaving there, and they're either going to want to debunk you, or they're going to hang on to every last word, because sometimes your last words are the last words of their loved ones, their message, and they can't stray from that,
And
and
it's
they
a
don't move on
responsibility.
from it.
That's
Right?
tough. Yeah.
And they're
tough.
depending on you. They're,
Yes.
if they believe in you, then they're going to invest all their confidence in you. They're totally broken. They're shattered. They're crying. You're crying too, because most humans in that situation would cry.
Right.
It's very powerful and challenges you. Doing UFOs is easy compared to doing that kind of
Yes.
work.
It
So
drains you.
I can still do it, but I'd rather do ghost tours than psychic readings, trying to find past loved ones. That's a
not
lot.
too many of us enjoy doing readings.
I don't do them unless I got a spirit right there. Say it. I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
Then you
Yeah.
say it, but otherwise, stop badgering. Okay.
No.
Otherwise,
we were talking about that just before
yes.
John came on. I hate when people yell out, "Oh, what do you see? What do you see?" And I'm just like walking in, I'm like, what the who are you?
It's the
Like,
famous word. You see anybody around me?
yeah,
No, man.
exactly. Who do you see next to me?
Oh,
Who do you see
yeah.
next to me? I'm like, your chair. Because
Yeah.
they don't realize that you shield
It's a
and you
process.
ground and you protect yourself so that you're not being bombarded. Because when a medium walks into a room of 10 people, there's like 100 in there.
Well, you
It's
have
not
those
the
spirits
same
that like
for
to
us.
piggyback, right?
Always.
Yeah, it's not the same for us. And it's difficult. So you have to bounce that and deflect it. But I do give readings for people who've lost their children all the time, free of charge, whatever. Email me, send me pictures. I will do that for you. It's something that I always do. And I've always, my God, for years. Those are ones that I truly love to do. And I want to do because I feel protective of the parents to keep them safe, because the grief of losing a child is unimaginable. And I pray nobody has to endure that, but people have, and you have to protect them because they are a gateway to the other side, meaning a darker side, not necessarily
Mhm.
so it's just so easy. Like we were talking about the mimics, a minute for a mimic, because the first thing you want is it to be your loved one. You don't want to think that this is possible.
So I had a loved one come to me at a funeral. So it was my dad's brother, and I fly from Florida to Texas, get a rental car, and drive straight to a wake. So I mean, that was in that order. And we get there, and my uncle was very respected in the business community. So there's probably 400 people there, and my dad's there before me, and so is my sister. And everybody's crying, predictable kind of scenario. And my uncle, I can see him over his casket. I can see him, because that's very often what they do right after they pass, is they're still around the body. They see
Well, they want to
loved
listen
one.
to what people are saying about them.
They do.
too.
They do.
Mhm.
And so he's trying to communicate with me. Yeah, he's trying to communicate with me. And I'm like, there's too much noise in this channel. There's too many people.
Yeah.
I'm not getting anything clear. I'm just getting all this jumbled. I'm like, wait till I'm alone. So that night, go to bed, wake up in the hotel room, boom, he's right over my bed. And then he says to me, he says to me, I feel so stupid. And I'm like, why would you feel stupid? He said, I realized that I was praying to extraterrestrials my entire life and I didn't know it. He was a Christian. Bible aliens. Yes,
You can
Bible
remove
aliens.
the word angel and put alien in and it fits.
It does. Yeah. That's but then it was just the craziest thing. And then he said, my mama and papa from East Texas were waiting for him as he was approaching the light to take him away from the false afterlife matrix that we get stuck in by
I've heard that before.
By giving our souls to, because that's what aliens do. They ask your soul, they ask you to give your soul to them, and they're all aliens. All of the deities that are worshipped around the world, they were all aliens, teaching us religion, teaching us to pray to them as opposed to source, and giving our souls to them so that when we die, at least a fraction of our soul is that washing machine. And so my mama and papa escorted my uncle away from that so that he could connect with his oversoul. And that's what you want to do. You want to connect with your highest self, because your highest self has your better interest in mind.
That's source. That's creation. That's your creation.
Yeah. So our God self, we all have it.
Right.
You could call it your soul. You could call it a lot of things. But anyway, that happened at a funeral. Unbelievable experience. Yeah, I know.
Wow. Can we back up again and go to Bradshaw Ranch? Do you guys have skinwalkers there because you have such a big indigenous community?
Yeah, we do. They're called the Windangos. They're called the Windangos.
Yeah, they call them Canada the Wendigo.
Wendigos. Yeah.
It's the same thing. It's
similar.
the same concept.
Oh no, they are. Yeah, it's always interesting to me how it varies, almost like the werewolves, how the names vary in different parts of New Orleans, like the loup-garou, right? And in French, that's pretty much where it is. So I love how it varies, but you have these same beings. So what do you have people who live on Bradshaw Ranch, obviously, much
No.
like, oh, you don't,
Well,
so it's as empty.
well, I shouldn't say that. We have Black Ops military
Ha!
that occupy the territory.
Okay.
But I don't.
Really?
Now it gets interesting. Okay.
Yeah, I don't know if you saw the docu-series on the History Channel. It's called Beyond SkinWalker. So
Yes.
we've all heard of SkinWalker Ranch, of course. So the same team of scientists, headed up by former Black Ops CIA operative Andy Bustamante, who headed up the team, I believe, for 4 years in northeastern Utah at SkinWalker Ranch. The first place they wanted to go after that 4 years was Sedona, and they
Mm.
did. And they did the documentary on it called Beyond Skinwalker Season 1, Episode 1, and Season 1, Episode 5 was Part 2. So it was so much material that they couldn't just lump it into one, 45-minute program with commercials.
Right.
And yeah. And so,
Wow.
yeah, I mean, heavy stuff. And they found the tunnel system, right? And the tunnel system goes right underneath the portal, which I believe I shared with you.
You did
a
when we
couple
talked
shows
about power
ago.
spots.
Yeah.
Yes.
But
Yes.
yeah, they found the tunnel system and it goes right underneath the portal. And underneath the portal is a patch of uranium. Figure that. And then coming out of the portal is a 1.6 gigahertz signal, which is reserved for Black Ops military for interstellar communication. And it hits the patch of uranium. So what we think, and we don't know, but what we think is that it amplifies the signal. I mean, I can't think of why else that would happen. And then it continues underneath. And then the portal, this is not coming through the portal, it's coming out of the portal. And the portal's not there all the time. Always there. Sometimes it is, sometimes it's not, which makes no rhyme or reason. But the tunnel continues and dead ends into an abandoned concrete plant in Clarkdale, Arizona, which is maybe 20 miles away from Bradshaw Ranch. That
Wow.
at least at one time was owned by Lockheed Martin, which is a major defense contractor. And I found that
Yes, it
out.
Yeah.
is.
Yeah, I
Yes,
found
it
that out through
is.
Tom Dongo, who him and Linda Bradshaw wrote the book Merging Dimensions, which really put Bradshaw Ranch on the map.
Wow.
So, but yeah, their research, you couldn't argue with it because they had these egghead scientists, right, who were there to debunk it, and they proved everything.
Right.
And
So
they
much like
they're they
SkinWalker
proved it through
Ranch or
science. Yeah, they
yes.
proved it all through science, which was great because I've been talking about this stuff for years, and it's hard to believe what I even talk about. But I'm like, please do your due diligence, do some
Right.
research, watch
Right.
these docu-series. You
Right.
know, they tell the story better than I do.
Right. Well, I think when you have that blend, there's a reason Black Ops is there. It's because you have things that are going on. SkinWalker Ranch is the same, right? They walked away from it, and now you have the current owners, and now you have scientific experiments going on, which gives a lot of validity to some of the things that have been found. But there's a lot of paranormal activity there, which would make sense if you've got all these power spots. You have, your cryptids, you have your UFOs, you have your, dimensional interstellar beings, you have all of this stuff. Paranormal is not going to be any different. You're going to have, spirit energy or disembodied energy coming in and out with ease.
Yeah, absolutely. So did I ever play the audio recording of what I captured close to Bradshaw Ranch?
I can't remember. We played a lot of things the last time. I think you might have.
I have so much good stuff, but
Yeah.
this was a number of years ago, and I'm about maybe 5 miles from Bradshaw Ranch, but you can see the portal from the distance, right?
Okay.
And then we see this massive UFO fly over our heads. There's probably 10 of us, and you hear me go. The propulsion field is massive.
Right.
And then these two beings, whatever they are, it's debatable, but whatever, they jumped in over the audio recording, and I didn't catch it for 2 days because we were busy at work. And my former boss, she would have me just record absolutely everything. And if it's nothing, just delete it, but send me everything. Right. We're gonna put it on Instagram.
Right.
And so I would, but it took me 2 days to get to that because we're just so busy, slammed with tours.
Right.
But anyway, if you want to hear it, I'll play it for you.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely.
All right.
That's a damn loud cricket.
You hear the cicadas.
Yeah,
But
they're loud.
Hear the tachyon field.
Yeah.
You can manipulate space-time with the tachyon field. So this goes on for a while. Let me skip to the end.
That's what when I hear that humming, that sound that you were describing, that's what it sounds to. That's how it sounds to me when I see or am near a portal.
That's easy to believe. But what's interesting, once again, none of us heard this, but here's the punchline right here. And he's checking us out too. So you could hear how it goes from back into whatever warp time into real time, right at the end of the recording. And what's interesting is there are a bunch of interesting things, but the original footage, it said 19 seconds. And I'm like, this was 1 minute and 54 seconds. So what I learned by studying it is that the beginning of the recording and the ending of the recording seconds, in the middle, somehow my eye
and down.
I was just gonna say froze on my side.
Frozen. Don't hear you.
Okay. Am I back?
There you are. There you are.
Yeah. Okay. Right. Okay. Yes. Okay. So we lost you when you said somehow your iPhone, and then you were gone. You froze.
Okay. So the first X amount of seconds and the last X amount of seconds equaled 19 seconds, but the middle part,
right?
The phone only registered 19 seconds, but I timed it. It was 1 minute and 54.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Right,
So
right.
Weird stuff like that happens. And sometimes, like I'll hear all kinds of bangs and crashes in my house at night, and I'll try to record it and I'll go back and listen to it. And it's either chopped up or none of it's even there.
Do you think like missing time?
And then I'm like, come on, guys, we're like, I start talking to them, I love you, ha, egg in my face, stop. I'm trying to sleep. I got to get up for work in the morning.
Right.
You sound like Michelle.
Yeah, I know.
She's like, enough.
I know. I've had enough.
Do you ever have fear?
Never.
Wow.
Never once. No, I don't.
Sorry.
I don't fear. Like I said, I know I'm loved and protected. Now that doesn't mean that I don't get attacked either.
Right.
But it does happen. That's for sure.
Right.
Yeah, but you're strong in your.
So I was taking some notes earlier, but one of the things I want to talk about is that not all the thoughts we think are our own. Spirits can place thoughts in your mind.
Yes.
They absolutely can, or change your moods, or how about make you fight with your spouse or somebody that you love?
They can control the environment.
They can absolutely do that.
So can 5G, by the way.
Yeah. So, well, that's another story in itself.
That's another show. That's another show.
What are my thoughts? And then what am I channeling? Right? Two different things. And sometimes it's hard to discern one from the other. But I'm pretty good about it. I'm like, ooh, that one, that was not me. That came from the ether out there somewhere. Right. Or, I have my Akashic antenna up at all times. I pick up on downloads all the time. Right. So here's one I picked up on recently, and vegans don't like to hear this. But if you're vegan and you eat anything with yeast in it, there's microbes in the yeast, and the microbes are meat. They're not plants. So you're literally eating animals.
What?
You're eating animals.
But they have brewer's yeast. Isn't that from hops?
But anytime
I'm not vegan. I'm just saying, like, I have family that it.
But the microbes, not plants, they're meat. And you're eating it in the yeast. Same thing with mushrooms too. The fungus. It's alive. It has consciousness. So that came to me in a download. And it upset a lot of people when I
That
told
would
them, but
explain
I'm
why
like,
I love mushrooms,
but
because I'm a carnivore.
I love mushrooms too, but it's like if you take the pasta and bread
Right.
out of your diet, then
Right.
it doesn't apply to you anymore.
But I
if
think
you eat
everything
pasta and bread,
has an energy. I mean, trees communicate
absolutely.
via a root system. They ground your energy. That's why, you have the saying, hug a tree, because it will exchange its energy with
Oh,
you. It
yes.
grounds you, like they communicate. It's interesting when you think about the fact that even plants have consciousness.
Absolutely. So
Scientific experiments have been done with it. Even water.
You
have
should
you ever heard the recordings of plants that are losing their fruit to harvest?
No.
They're crying.
They're
No,
crying.
No.
It's
You
no.
can hear it.
true.
I
You
know. I
can-
can't even.
I know.
I talk to my flowers. Like, I can't.
Yeah.
And
It's
I'm
true.
like, I eat everything. You know what I mean? So it's, I disassociate. It's terrible. Vegans probably hate me right now, but I disassociate the animals, because to me, cows are like giant puppies. So I can't say that's a steak. You know what I mean?
Mm.
Anyways, that's a whole other show again.
It is. But let's say there's
But-
a blade of grass and there's a caterpillar eating it. And just like you said, Michelle, through the root system, it will send information to the other blade of grass that
Right.
it's getting eaten by a caterpillar.
I've
Just
heard
like in the
that.
movie just like in the movie Avatar, that there's a neural network underground and even in the air between plants. They're just as conscious as we are. And so on my Vortex tours, I will take people out to the vortexes and I'll be like, see that tree? That's not a vortex tree. That's not one. That's not one, but that's one. And the way to tell is that especially the junipers, they'll twist as they
do. Yeah.
And then to challenge myself as a psychic, I try to pick at least one person out of the crowd, and it's almost always a female. Believe it or not, women have a higher vibration frequency than men do.
I believe it.
They do. You can prove it. You can prove it scientifically.
You don't
But
have
what
to
I
tell
do
me
is
twice.
I have them go up to the tree and not touch it, but put their hand within an inch of it and see if they can feel the energy.
Mhm.
And I try not to put anything in their mind, but I do. But I say you may feel a tingle, you may feel a push, you may feel a pull, you may feel a change in temperature. You might start to shake. It's different for different people. And I'm like, if you don't feel it with one hand, try your other hand. And I've only been wrong twice in 6 years.
Right.
When I pick those people out. And sometimes I just won't pick anybody because I don't want to be wrong, but usually I almost always pick somebody, and it's almost always a woman. And like I said, I've been wrong only twice in 6 years. So it's like, if you think you're psychic, you have to constantly test yourself.
It's interesting how you talk about, cold spots or hot spots, change in temperature, because it's much like when any sort of energy being comes into your space, it can alter, the temperature
It
as
does.
well.
And then on Beyond SkinWalker, they have this guy that specializes in that. I don't know exactly what you call it, but he has this thermometer, for lack of a better term. And he's like, when this happened, it got 10 degrees colder. And when that happened, it got 10 degrees hotter. And they were stimulating that activity by using very powerful lasers, which I'll use on my UFO tours also. But they had these lasers that are probably, $100,000 that doing all these kind of sacred geometry patterns and stuff, and it was provoking energy, which was changing the outside temperature on the fly as they were doing this experiment. And so, to your point, exactly, I thought that was really
crazy.
Cool.
It's craziness. You are obviously, you take people to Sedona's gravesite and you try to communicate. Do you have a really good communication with her? Because I noticed you sent a video. I can play at any point if you want.
You can do it now if you want to.
Yeah.
If you think
it's
the
of
right
course.
juncture.
Yeah. Okay,
So,
I'm just going to bring it up.
I sent you almost all still photos, but the last two of the three, I believe, were videos, and I believe it was the third from the last that was Sedona herself.
And I've got two videos. The Sedona and Megan.
Yeah, so Sedona, that one.
Okay, so we're going to go Sedona. Okay, 1 minute.
And what I do is I ask her to turn on this flashlight.
Okay,
and you'll hear the guy, and you'll hear the guy go, "Oh, I thought it was on a timer." I'm like, "No, it's not a hoax. This is real."
Okay, so I'm going to put this up.
Do you have audio for it by any chance?
I should.
Okay.
Well, we'll see. Okay,
So,
1
so
second.
there's the EMF, right?
Okay.
The device on the left side, and then the flashlight.
Okay, let's see. Let me know if you can hear it.
I can't hear it on my end, but anyway, she was turning it on and off.
Okay. Can you guys hear it at all?
No.
No?
No.
Okay. Okay, 1 minute. Let me try. No, it's a movie. It has to be an MP4 for me to be able to get it to the
And
soundboard.
I just sent it to you through my iPhone.
Yeah, no, that's okay. The soundboard will only take it if it's an MP4. But the idea is to be able to see the light. You're basically communicating and and essentially it's look at she's taking the flashlight and she's making it go on and off, right?
Yeah, she's interacting.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I asked her, I'm not telling her what to do. I love you, Sedona. I consider her my mother in certain ways, because how I landed in Sedona multiple times.
Yes.
It's a pretty amazing story in itself. A million little things had to line up, and they did.
Right.
As improbable as it was, but
right.
I think I can't prove it to myself or anybody else, but I think I was one of her 6 kids. That's what I really think, because the way my mom got remarried here, I had a free house in Sedona for 8 months, which is unheard of. It's so expensive to live here. I live in a garage right now.
Right. Right.
And then I was driving across the country to be with a girl in Southern California, and she broke up with me on my way over to California. And I promised my friend Suzanne Ross, who I've been her UFO guy for forever since I moved here, that I would MC her conference while she was out doing activations on the Red Rock. And that's what brought me back to Sedona the 3rd time. Yeah. And then a month later, I get a job with one of the biggest UFO sighting tour companies in the world. That's where I meet my former employer. And she taught me, pray to Sedona, pray to the consciousness here, be as respectful and as humble pie as you possibly can, because company after company, individual after individual, I don't care how much money they have, how talented that they think that they are, this place can definitely chew you up and poop you right back out. That's for sure.
Right. Well, it's an incredible place for sure. So I've got all of your stuff labeled. Do you want me to just put up pictures and
sure. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Why don't we do that? Okay. So we're doing show and tell, guys.
Yeah, and I can explain to you. And so there's no audio with what she's going to show now.
No,
so
not
I can
at
just
all.
I can just tell you what the pictures are about.
Sure.
Okay, here we go. We're going to go 4th dimensional walk-ins. Okay.
Cool.
I'm going to put this up right now. There we go. Here we go. This one, and this one. Okay.
Oh, wow. Okay, so my buddy was taking me home, and we see these 2 massive elk walk right past us in the middle of the night. And if you look, they're turning around looking at us. But if you look at their tails look like the faces of extraterrestrials.
Right.
Is it just me, or but you can see the elk are turning around, and it looks like the butt end of these beautiful animals. If you look, it kind of looks like faces to me. And I show my buddy.
And you're getting into pareidolia a bit too, right? It can get really funky.
Absolutely. Yeah. Pareidolia will take over your mind if you allow it to.
Yeah.
That's what that was. It was these 2 massive elk in the middle of a very residential area.
Wow.
Also,
very
which
cool.
is not totally unusual, but it was, it's the only time I've ever seen 2 elk in the middle of a totally populated residential neighborhood. Just walked right past us. And also when they cross your path, that means something more than when you see them on the side of the road. They deliberately crossed your path. So your energies cross paths also. Yeah. Oh, it was so cool. You were just like, wow, did we just see that?
They're beautiful, beautiful critters, shall we say. Okay, I'm bringing up arc of protection, okay? Just so we what is coming up next. So 1 second. We're going to go present, share screen, window, bam, bam, and bam. There we go.
Okay, so see the orb. You can see the orb, right? But see the arc of protection over it. So
Right.
this is, I'm going to use the term Cultural Park Place, and this is supposedly where the Wendangos or Wendigos live, and they
Okay.
protect this
There we
land.
go.
So every company, even the
Right.
city, has tried to, break dirt and build on this. This has been happening since 2007, where Willie Nelson was the last person to do a concert there. And
Mhm.
then the monster band shell, all that 41 acres, it's just been sitting empty. They've been trying to sell it, and it is absolutely prime real estate, but all kinds of weird stuff, including the audio recording I just played for you, that
Right.
occurred there. And off at a distance, you can see the portal to Bradshaw Ranch. But anyway, so the
Huh.
orb, what I believe is that it's important and potentially needs protection. That's why the Ark of Protection is over it, to guard it from something.
Hmm.
And perhaps vulnerable to attack also.
Right. Right.
Just my best guess. But at Cultural Park, it's 2 years ago, and I'm out there on a tour, and I see these stakes in the ground. It says, lot this, building that. Lot this, building that, which is evidence of surveying, right?
Right.
Stakes in the ground, pink flags, lot this, building that. And also I start telling my friends, I'm like, wow, somebody finally broke the curse. Well,
Mhm.
guess what? 6 months later, all the stakes were gone. And if you talk to contractors and construction guys, they're like, somebody paid to do that. I'm sure they paid to do it with every intention to build on it.
Right.
And once again, the curse strikes that area. So my former employer, when she first started doing UFO like 17, 18 years ago, she went there with offerings of sage and tobacco for the Wendangos, and ask permission to be on their property, to be on their sacred, hallowed ground, and
Mhm.
to be able to make money. And she
Mhm.
was there for like 16 years. Isn't that a trip? But she knew enough. She was very psychic, still is. Survived
Mhm.
cancer 7 times too. Let's go there, because she believes because of the vortex energy.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they mean business. I mean, there's a lot of folklore around
They
these
mean
things,
business. They mean business. I like the
They
way you
do.
put that.
It's serious business.
Well, it's their land, and that's the way they look at it. And
Yes.
we're just trespassing, basically, and disrespecting them in their land. So
Right.
all these different companies, I'm telling you, I can prove the companies that have gone under trying to
Mhm.
develop that and other property around town. I can point
Right.
it out just by driving around, that one, that one, that one. And I always say on the tours, can't prove the curses, can prove the bankruptcies. That
Mm.
easily proved.
Right.
So,
Well,
yeah.
I think there's, you hear stories about this all over the world, where, where sometimes there's just certain parcels of land that you just can't have it. The power's far greater than us. Well,
Nope.
far greater than
You're
us,
right.
and they want it. It's theirs, and that's the way it goes. Okay, face in the sky,
Oh
Wow.
wow.
Yeah, so
right? Let me
that
see
was
if I can
just,
make this.
it was the strangest thing. It was, in Sedona, not really looking for anything. That's in the sky. And it
Right.
kind of looks, in pareidolia again, but it kind of looks like the face of a gray alien.
Right. Well,
No,
it looks like part,
it
looks
might
like
be, that might be a stretch, but you might be able to see the eyes
mm-hmm.
and then the rudimentary mouth and even a nose feature.
Right.
And then perhaps even an elongated skull. And then there's an
Yeah.
aura around it too, or I don't know, you can
Right.
see almost like a field around it, which I don't know how to explain
Mhm.
it any better than that. But anyway, that was
Is it
just
or is
something in
it
the Sedona
bleeding?
sky.
What
Like
is
it
it?
almost
be.
looks like the light's bleeding into the sky.
Yeah, yeah.
Mm.
I mean,
That's
all
a
the
tough
above.
one. Yeah,
Well,
that's a
it's
tough
hard to
one.
explain. All I know is I saw
Yeah.
that and we got the picture and I'm like, ooh, because I have this presentation and I've shown you a lot of my presentation by just sharing these photos and videos with you.
Mm-hmm. It's a
Right.
great
You know?
shot.
Right.
Oh,
It was, and
great.
there was
I mean,
nothing
well,
else in the sky at that point. Was it a really cloudy day?
no.
It was. That's
It's,
it.
well, you can see it's perfectly
Yeah.
sky blue around it. So it
Yeah.
wasn't a cloud, that's for sure.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, your guess is as good as mine, but spirit can bleed through and create
Yes.
apparitions, or I'm not, not exactly sure how to explain it, but
No,
whatever.
I
You
agree
see what
with
I'm
you.
getting at? Yeah.
No,
Mhm.
I agree with you. And very interesting picture. Okay, I'm just going to bring this one down a little bit here. Okay, this one is the Holy Cross Sedona. And
Oh.
I know. I'll let you just.
Oh.
Yeah. I'll let you say it, John.
I'll try and come down. I'm trying.
All right, here we go.
Wow.
So now, if this is okay, so in 1956, a lady named Marguerite Brunswick, she was a sculptor from Manhattan, and in a distance in the 1930s, she could see the construction of the Empire State Building, and it inspired her to build a chapel. Long story short, she chose to do it in Sedona. Okay, and anyway, she had two visions: to make the chapel in what you call cruciform shape, in other words, in the shape of a cross.
Mm-hmm.
And then also she wanted to sculpt the Jesus on the crucifix. And so when she did, it kind of looks like an alien with thorns on it. I mean, if you look at the head, and that might be a stretch, but it doesn't look like any typical Jesus I've seen in any church ever before.
Sort of,
but if you look to the right of the head, what is that smoke or that mist?
Yeah.
The
See, now
same
what I'm
as your
talking
sky
about.
thing.
Yeah.
It looks identical to your sky. The last photo.
I mean, something. Do I know what it is?
Right.
No. But I love to show the picture. So
Yeah,
when I
it's
take people to the
interesting.
chapel, which I do almost 5 or more days a week, I explain to them the alien Jesus story. And I tell them, when Marguerite had the chapel open, people wanted to murder her. Just straight up murder, death, kill. And it's like, and I pose the question, why would somebody want to kill somebody for building a church? It doesn't make any sense. And then I say, when I tell you the answer, it's going to make even less sense. And then when I show you the picture, it's still not going to make any sense, but at least I have the picture.
Right.
And so, and so I tell them, and then I'm like, now what you're going to see now, you're not going to see the alien Jesus. This is a new Jesus, which is unique also, which is where Jesus is dying on the tree of knowledge with his eyes open. And that's the only one in the world like it too. And there's
that's a good way to get a lot of hate mail. I'm just saying.
So I mean, people just straight up, especially her, wanted to murder her for depicting Jesus the way that she did.
Yes. Well, some people have their theories about that. Other people don't want to go there. This is one that's interesting to me, which is, of course, the one you call the Tesla coil.
Yeah. And I don't know how to explain it any better than that, but this is at Cultural Park also. So, very often a lot of people in Sedona will make these technologies where they have let's say a crystal rod, and they wrap copper around it.
Right.
And it creates this very metaphysical and healing effect also. Yes. And they'll fashion it into jewelry and wrap it and do other things with it. And anyway, but you can see it almost looks like a Tesla coil to me. I didn't know what else to call it. And then you see the point of light behind it. But this was at Park also. And bear in mind, nobody saw that one or the orb with arc protection over it either. Those were not seen. The photos were taken.
That's funny because it reminds me of Elon Musk's when he sends up
Starlink.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Well,
I'm not saying it's not. That's just my nature to question everything.
I get it.
Yeah, it's just my nature.
A lot of the Navajos here will tell you they don't believe in Starlink. And I'm like, well, I know it's real because I have an app on my phone. And it will tell me. And it's pretty accurate, actually.
I'm very much, if you don't see it with your naked eye and you take a picture and you catch it, it's real. You're telling me you didn't see it, you photographed and it's there, then I believe you, it's real.
Yeah.
Well, but they'll tell you, they're like, they don't believe that it's real. And I'm like, well, why not? They're like, we've been seeing this for hundreds and hundreds of years. Wow. So now Elon Musk, who's 52, he's claiming that he's been creating this, which we've been seeing for millennia. All right, we're not buying it at all. And so get this, Starlink flies over Sedona every day, which is not true, but things that look like Starlink do.
Right, right.
Things that look like it. And there's code buried in it also. There's code buried in it, like Starlink is very mathematical, like, X amount of space, mathematically spaced apart.
Well, he's scientist, right? So
but sometimes we'll see it and it's like dot dot dash dash dot dot dash dot dash, and it's like almost like Morse code. So we've
seen stuff like that, Bubbles.
Yeah, we've had a code breaking savant look at it.
One hell of a sequence.
Really?
Yes.
Yeah.
I've seen it.
Yeah, we've had
Yes.
code
Yeah.
breakers look at it and they're like, it's not Morse code, but it's definitely some form of
It's
communication.
frustrating because you can't figure it out and you can't even
No.
read the energy off of it. It is so frustrating.
Mhm. That's why, I have to appreciate the time when I was having so many sightings in my youth in the 70s when there were, okay, I'm aging myself again, but when there were no satellites in the sky per se. I think there might have been, one or two.
That we know of.
Yeah, I mean,
That we
maybe,
know of. Yeah.
maybe early 70s. No, I don't think so.
Yeah, but not this sophisticated.
Yeah, I don't know. But okay, so we're going to come and look at this one. This one here is called plasma. So let me just go grab this one. Okay.
Ooh.
And
I
here
love
we
show
go.
and tell.
I love show and tell as well.
Okay, so can
Wow.
you zoom in on that, Michelle?
Yeah,
So
I
if
am.
you
I
go,
just
I'm
am
sorry, to the
putting it
upper left, if you can
in.
pull
Hold
down
on.
the upper
Oh,
left part of it, if you can go
Yep.
to the right with that.
Want it to the right? I'm
And
trying.
if you pull the whole
It's
photo
it's-
to there you go. Wait, I'm
Okay,
sorry.
there we are. All right.
So
God's
check
sakes.
that out. See
Yes,
that
yes.
and that trippy? And then if you go to the upper left part of the photo, right? So look at this. This thing's doing almost like a right angle turn. And so what I believe this to be, and I can't prove it, but what I think it is I believe it's plasma, not plasma in the human blood, but when molecules move, ions come off of them, okay? And they're magnetically charged and they have consciousness and they cling to each other. They'll be magnetized to each other and create anomalies like this, which are really unexplainable. But you can see how whatever that thing is does almost a right angle turn in the sky. And this is just
Right.
north of Sedona on the way up to Flagstaff.
So
Isn't that cool?
I mean, do you all see this
Nope.
in the sky? You don't. You just take a
Anybody
random picture
see-
and this is what comes up?
Yeah, and this is with a basic iPhone. It's not like we're using some digital photography. And anybody that knows me knows I'm pretty much computer illiterate.
iPhone's
Right.
better than most digital cameras. Can I just
well,
interject for 1 second?
Yeah,
Am I
please.
the only person that's seeing the eyes and the face next to it?
Yeah. Well, no, I can see it too.
Right here?
Yeah.
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 Yeah. you can let pareidolia run wild with some of these photos. But
No,
I
this
don't
is
think it's
good.
pareidolia.
No,
I
this
pick
is a
up
great
different. I
picture.
pick up things
Okay.
from energy
I
like you
what
do.
just said.
Yeah.
No, I pick because I see something completely different. I do see that plasma. Of course,
Mhm.
it's massive, but the two dots, whether it's energy or whatever it is, it has taken that form.
You have it here.
It's
And
something,
yeah,
right?
that's
Here.
a lot.
It's
And
That's
not
a lot. And
not
then that
lens flare.
angelic
And then
one,
this.
Yeah.
to me, that looks like a halo with wings. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, and it's hard to even explain it, but and that's just the best way I can explain
Yeah.
it. And I know I'm not completely right either.
And you
But
notice,
anyway,
there's a
photo.
mist on that mountain, right, John?
Yeah,
I
Okay.
think you have to, we don't have all the answers. We just have to
No.
look at things. I always say, when I'm looking at photos or
Mhm.
I'm listening to EVPs, I try to be objective and I try to go through the process of elimination, try to think of everything under the sun as to what it could be. And if I come up with a question mark, then what it does to me, I don't look at it and say, oh, then it's definitive. I just look at it and say, at least I get to keep searching.
Mhm.
It's not
I like that.
shut down, right? I get to keep trying to figure it out. It's not shut down. It's not, no, you're wrong. It's something. And that is enough to say, okay, I get to keep trying to figure this out.
Yeah.
It still has that question mark, which makes it a bit of a mystery.
For me, the pareidolia thing is hard because there aren't any clouds. So
Good point. I mean,
it's tough to, I would have to see that on a big screen. I'm just taking by what I'm reading from energy.
Mhm.
But honestly, to me, I don't know if it's just me, I honestly see an angelic
Mm.
being on whatever it
Okay.
is. It
So
looks
let me
like it
ask
has
you
wings.
guys. Let me ask you guys this. I mean, John has seen it, so I'll ask you, then I'll ask Amelia. What were you feeling psychically when you looked at that photo, once you captured it, John?
Okay, so I had gone to Contact in the Desert. Heard of
Yes.
Contact in the Desert, of course. One of
Yes.
the biggest UFO conferences in the world. And
Yes.
I'm showing this to a guy named Jay Widener. I don't know if you know who Jay Widener is.
I've heard the
I'm
name.
showing him some of my footage,
Right.
of videos and other things, and that's the way he explained it to me.
Okay.
So I kind of just stuck with that because I didn't know how to better explain it.
Right. Right. Okay. And Amelia, when you look at it, you know what it looks like to you, but what does it feel like?
It feels like energy to me. It doesn't. That's why when you said you can do all pareidolia with that. I'm the biggest skeptic when it comes to photographs. Michelle can be my witness to that. I'm the first one to say, like I just don't buy it. But this here is, it's throwing me because to have pareidolia would mean you need other clouds in the sky. But that's why I said I would need to see that really blown up.
Okay.
Because on my computer, because my laptop is so small, it's tiny for me, but I feel like there's an energy. And I honestly believe that whatever that presence is on the right side is a presence. It's not clouds to me. It's not smudge. The mountain in the middle should not be misted like that. Even in a photograph, you wouldn't get that kind of fade on the back middle mountain. That doesn't make sense. And I took photography for years. So I don't believe that. I'm a big fan of film, but unfortunately it's like the 70s. It's way too expensive to develop film now.
Right.
Because nobody does it.
No.
But,
and that's usually what gives you something more foolproof.
Yeah, but it's very impressive. I don't doubt you on that at all.
Okay. Next one, Mary Rodwell.
Oh, this is great.
Wow.
Okay.
So let's really dissect this. Okay. So
yeah.
I'm at a conference. I'm the MC, and this was October 23, 24, 25 of 2017 at the Awareness Center in Cottonwood, which is about 17 miles south.
Right.
And so Mary, she wrote this book called The New Human, which is largely about the indigo children. Okay. Right. But she's the keynote speaker. So my friend flew her in from Australia, where she is the director and founder of ACERN, which is the Australia Close Encounter Research Network.
Yeah.
And in a male-dominated field, she is the foremost authority on UFOs in Australia.
And her videos are fantastic.
There's nobody higher and more exalted and revered as her. And so I'm just sitting there in the crowd, and she's the keynote speaker, and I'm just looking at her, and I see this, and I'm the only one out of, I don't even know how many people were there, but I'm the only one who sees this. And so I'll be honest, this is not my photo. My friend had a better phone than I did, right? And I'm like, her name's Cortana. I'm like, Cortana, start taking pictures of Mary. Do you see that? She's like, well, I see Mary. I'm like, just take pictures. So she starts taking pictures, and boom, we captured this. And so if you study it, if you look, so she's on the left, obviously, and then whatever this is on the right, she's on the left, she's looking to the side, but on the right, she's looking up.
That's right.
And her head's even pointed up too.
I've seen a similar picture of this, similar in the past. It's interesting because how do you get double exposure?
Well, this is what people said. They said double exposure.
Yeah, but she's looking a totally different direction.
But you can get double exposure on digital? I thought that was
impossible.
You can't.
No, it's only on film because of the handling.
So good point, Amelia. But so she puts this on Facebook. I show it to her, and her grandchildren thought it was funny because they've, grandma, they've seen all kinds of weird stuff with her. Anyway, she puts it on Facebook, and she gets lambasted. And I was embarrassed. I was embarrassed and actually enraged. Right. And so somebody was like, yeah, it's a double exposure. And I was not nice at all. I'm like, number one, disrespectful, lack of intelligence, lack of research, and you don't even know what you're talking about. So if this was a double exposure, everything would be double exposed, not just her body. You can see inside her ear.
You
right?
can't double expose a digital photo.
I know. And so anyway, I ripped everybody a new backside because I was personally offended and embarrassed because I'm the one who gave her the photo, and she got embarrassed by it. And people like, oh, Mary, you just don't understand technology. That's a very basic
That's not nice.
camera
Why
shutter,
don't people just
camera
scroll
shutter
on
anomaly.
by?
And I went and I ripped everybody, like I said, a new one because
Camera shutter.
number one, they were wrong and very disrespectful. You know, bad mouthing her. You know, try to halfway tactfully do it, but it's like, this lady is one of the foremost experts in the world on what she does. Do you think she would post that if she thought it was a bunch of hooey? No, there's absolutely no way. But
Double
I mean, now,
exposure wouldn't be sideways either.
well, see the A in the bottom right corner, that would have easily been blurred and doubled. The microphone, her lanyard, her watch, her necklace, all of that.
It's missing on the other.
So what I think is that this is her higher self. I don't know exactly how to better explain it, but that's just my best guess.
Right. As the area where this conference was held, is it known for portal or vortex energy moving through the building?
Great question. So my buddy bought an old Mormon church and turned it into the Awareness Center.
Very cool. Where
he would do his spiritual healing, but we would do conferences there and drum circles and all that stuff. And it was a really cool place. Right. And then his father was dying. So he ended up going to Palo Alto, California. And I was just watching the place, which was cool because I got to stay there for a month. But it was totally spooky, haunted in there. You know, where I say I'm not afraid. All right, I lied. I was a little freaked out in there. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, but anyway, but to answer your question, yes, yeah, there's definitely.
So it's possible that maybe there was a distortion happening. Time and space with vortex or portal energy.
Yeah,
sure. I buy that as opposed to
it's just as much. It's a crazy anomaly. I think people don't realize that when you step in, or if something goes, comes into your space, or you step into that sort of a space, like there's so many beliefs that we can exist in different dimensions at the same time. I mean, it's kind of freaky that you'd be wearing the same thing, but the thing is that, there's a pull your essence, I guess is where I'm going with it.
I'm with you on that one.
There's a pull the essence, but just for that one moment where you were able to get that capture.
And the fact she was looking up she was looking up.
Yeah, it's crazy though. It's crazy. It's super, super interesting. I love it. Okay, next I'm going to go to this one.
Hi, Corinne.
Cocapelli. Am I saying that right? Okay, good. That's good. Because you never know. I'm French. You never know how it's going to come out, John.
Oh gosh, French, any Latin-based language, you have no clue what
it could come out anyway.
Yeah. What is that?
Once again, this was not seen. So this is just once again, I'm guessing, but there's a Native American fertility god that's indigenous to this part of the Pueblo Nations, and he's called Cocapelli, and you see him depicted bent over playing the flute.
Right.
That's what that supposedly is, right?
Right.
And anyway, but this is the cultural park place where the Wendangos or Wendigos live, right? And just all kinds of weird stuff happens here, like on a regular basis, all the time, And it's funny because you can take all these photos and not really see anything, but go back and look at it, and you're like, how did I not see that? But the camera did. And this is just with a basic iPhone.
Right.
It's a good camera.
They have good cameras. Yeah, they do.
It's a good camera.
They do. Okay, so I'm going to move on. Okay, so you sent two different Wendango pictures. So I'm going to go with the first one you sent me.
Okay.
Okay, 1 second. 1 minute. Come on. There we go. All right. Love and show and tell. Okay.
Me too.
I wish it was just a bit of a quicker process to get it all. Unfortunately,
it's helping with because I fidget a lot.
Okay, so notice the rock in the bush. And so that gate or whatever you want to call it, that was not visible either. But according to my former employer, she said that's what the Wendangos travel through to come here from whatever dimension that they're coming
So it's a
from.
portal
Yeah.
or a vortex.
You could definitely call it that. So
Okay,
if you look between the two rocks, just above the two rock, yeah, what is that?
Okay,
That shows up in another photo which I sent you also.
Okay, all right. Let me just see if I can.
That's got movement in it. There's a lot of movement in that photo.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, and this energy's coming in. Obviously, I interpret it as energy.
You notice the portal, Michelle? It's green. You see the green?
Right in here.
Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of portals do have color, which is really interesting. Let me get the other picture now. Okay. This is number 1.
You're just validating everything I've ever seen, John. Thank you. I noticed there's color because that's how I see them.
Right.
So
1 second. Come on to number 2. Okay. Here we go.
I don't feel
those
crazy
you guys
anymore.
listening, try to get to the YouTube pages so you can see these pictures.
This next one's even cooler. So the rock in the bush. Now see how this gate comes in from the opposite direction and does not hit the ground. Because I'll have people say, "Oh, it's light." Well, I'm like, "Well, no, it's not. If it was light, it would hit the ground. Light just doesn't stop abruptly like that, unless it hits a solid object or a reflective surface."
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And light is a particle. So once again, where that thing was, I pointed out between the two rocks, you can still see it. And if you enlarge it, you might start to see a face.
Okay, 1 second. Let me bring this forward a little bit.
Anyway, but there you go. And so, like I said, according to my former employer, she said that she believed, because she couldn't prove it either, that the Wendangos travel through these things into and out of this area, which is not far from Bradshaw Ranch, where she gave the offerings of sage and tobacco to appease the Wendangos and ask permission to be there.
I'll make notice of this little thing right here. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because when you look at the Wendigo, they do have the skeletal, looks like a big elk head or horse head, a skeletal one. A lot of times, right? Skinwalkers are similar. And this does look almost skeletal in a way, with it like the hole in the eye. Do you guys, do you see it?
Oh, yeah. That's what I was pointing
right
out. And you see it too, apparently.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting. If you compare it, it's definitely interesting. I'll give it that.
That in the blackness of that photo, is there bushes or something there?
Hold on.
In that darkness?
Let me.
There is in the just right behind it, but then it goes downhill. So if you can picture that, it goes downhill.
No, because in the pareidolia in my head, it almost looks like a pictograph, like
a what?
Yeah,
almost like a pictograph. When you enlarge it, you'll see it.
Okay.
Do you see do you see what I'm seeing with the pareidolia kind of in my head?
Hold on, I just got really big. I gotta go back. Okay,
yeah, it's perfect.
Okay. Okay, where now? Where?
The blackness.
In here.
Now you zoom that blackness out, and you're going to see a pattern, which doesn't make it keep going. Now move it to the left. See how you see the rainbow colors?
Yes.
Look at it.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
The more I zoom in on this stuff, the more stuff I see.
See?
But that
do you
was
see the pattern?
I do.
That's not.
That was a black background because it went downhill from there.
But that's a pattern, and it's rainbow. Now, I don't know if it's a reflection of white light, but I do see the green, red, and the blue above it. And you see the red, which is how I see portals. So
interesting.
I just found that interesting. Whether it's pareidolia or not, I find it very interesting. And I would want to look at that again, because that is a pattern. And I don't know how. Does pareidolia create a pattern on the back of a night sky? I don't know.
It's tough with digital because it gets so pixelated, you know.
Extremely, but it's a pattern.
Yeah.
It's extremely intriguing. That's what I'm going to say.
Yeah, you could
Right.
call
So I
that
don't get hate
abracadabra
mail
thinking.
because people are going to come after me for even saying.
Okay. Next
So-
is the Vortex picture number 1. Okay. Now there we go.
Okay, so this was a trip. I'm at the medicine wheel, and this is out at Buddha Stupa. I don't know if you've ever heard of Buddha Stupa in Sedona. There's major vortex there.
Mhm.
And this is probably 100 and something yards away. And I have this guy and his wife, and I'm teaching them how to tap into the medicine wheel,
Mhm.
which my former employer, she and I, we were taught by Navajo how to do it and how to tap into the vortex and the medicine wheel. So the creator stands in the center of all creation, surrounded by the 7 dancers, and they are as follows. So see his right foot, and then we're going to go clockwise.
Mhm.
So Mother Earth, Father Sun, Grandmother Moon, and then this is where your animal totems kick in. The turtle is earth, the frog is water, the thunderbird is fire, and the butterfly is air. And I'm just taking a picture. You know, I didn't see this light come in, which it's not light. So a lot of the psychics in town will tell you that they're Pleiadians. Don't know what they are, don't know what they aren't.
Right.
But anyway, begs the question. And once again, it doesn't hit the ground either. And this was a perfectly clear day. Also, you can see it's very blue at the top. So I've been showing this photo for years, and it was a couple years ago, and a lady points at the shadows off of the rocks, and she's like, "Oh, cool, look at the eagle." And I'm like, how have I not seen that before? So if you look at his head, it looks like a human head to me. But if you look at the shadow of his head, it looks more beak shaped.
Right.
Looks like the
Let
head
me
of an
just
eagle.
grab it. Yeah, like right here.
Yeah. And it's
Right.
funny because I had been showing this for years, never saw it. So the angle of the sun at that exact precise moment gave
Right.
the shadow off of the rocks of the medicine wheel, and it kind of looks like feathers on a bird.
It does. It
Doesn't it?
does.
I mean, it's like, how cool is that, man?
Yeah, that's a great picture. That's a great picture. Okay, let me get the other one. Because the other one is very cool as well. Okay, 1 second. That's a big one here. I have to narrow it down a little bit. Okay, there we go. And bingo.
Okay, so
Okay.
that's my mom. She's, I
Aw.
always give mom credit for absolutely
Hi,
everything.
Mom.
I love her hat. I love her
Oh,
hat.
yeah.
Hi, Mama.
Isn't she cute?
Hey, Mama. Look at her all styling. I love it.
You know what's funny is she lies about how old she is, so I'm not even sure how old she is.
That is hilarious. I
She
know
lies about
someone
it.
like that. That is insanity. I'm like,
She looks
really?
young, so it's hard to tell how old she is anyway. But anyway, she
Yeah.
came to Sedona with my stepdad, and then hey, can you take a picture of me and mom? Sure. And then you see this light. Well, it's not light. See how it curves also. It comes in and it curves right by my mom. And another perfect example. Didn't see this. Went back, looked at the photo. Oh wow, how cool is that?
And where was this one taken?
It's called Buddha Stupa.
Got it.
So this is, there's the main tower, which you can't see. Oh, you can see it. If you look at the stupa in front, see the tower of the stupa behind it. So there's the bigger one and then the smaller one.
Right.
That's what that is. Okay.
Right.
Yeah. And that's just
Very
me and
cool.
mom on a vortex tour, which was, really cool. And what's very interesting is if you fly over a church on a Sunday when they're having mass, right? You can measure the prayer energy and the energy from singing coming out of the steeple.
I believe it.
So a lot of times I got to be very careful about how I present this to people, because people can be easily offended by going to the Buddha stupa. You see what I'm saying? So I frame it in such a way that it's the same thing as a steeple on a church. Instead of me calling it a Buddhist temple, I don't call it that. I try to not explain it very well. I learned that through trial and error years ago.
I joke about this. That's the difference between us and civilians. We will research other religions so we can understand things, and they're set in their ways, and that's okay. That's okay.
Sure. Yeah.
They're not doing the same work, but that is impressive. And I do believe that, excuse me, that you can measure that energy. Why couldn't you? It's a frequency. It's prayer. It's a collectiveness. Yeah.
That's right. That's exactly right.
I'm sure you'd get the same the same kind of maybe not the same high vibration coming from a cult. You'd still measure frequency. It'd just be a different level.
Yeah. So
Right.
inside the stupa, they did a bunch of things symbolically. They put these prayer flags in it, which are mantras. They're either written in Tibetan or English or both. They're soaked in saffron water, cleansed by the cleansed in sage, and then blessed by the monks. And then they're inside of the stupa, never see the light of day. A non-perishable vat of grain to demonstrate there's enough food to go around the world, that especially no child should have to go without a meal. And then 128 plant medicines inside of it also, to demonstrate that we can get our medicine from the earth. And none of those items will see the light of day. That's part of the symbolism. And underneath it is a cache of guns to demonstrate that we don't need war.
Wow.
So, and the guns are under the stupa, and everything else is inside of it. So I love to tell people this. I've gotten in trouble talking about this before out there.
Right.
But a stupa, do you know what a stupa actually is?
No.
It's a spaceship.
Ah.
It is known
go.
that Buddha would enter the stupa, especially by the Ganges River, and would get into it and fly up into the cosmos to commune with the gods.
Right.
Yeah, I got overheard saying that before.
Oh.
They almost kicked me out of there.
Send all your
hate mail.
emails to Joe Montaldo at UPRN.
Wow.
But it was a few years ago, and this guy is on my tour, and I'm starting to show where the vortex energy is. And this guy's like, I came here to debunk you. And I'm like, oh, great. What are you going to try to debunk me about? He said, my colleagues and I from whatever university, we're not buying it. We don't think it's real. And so he had what you call a tri-field magnetometer, which measures electric energy, magnetic energy, electromagnetic energy, and microwaves. And so he's like, where do you think the energy is? I said, well, I believe it's at the stupa. So we go to the stupa, bam, bam, bam. It starts to peak. We walked away. It stopped. We walked over to where there's a statue of Buddha and a vortex tree right next to it where it's twisting. And I'm like, I believe it's here also. Bam, bam, bam. We walked away. It stopped. And then we went to an even better vortex tree, and it peaked again, and then it stopped when we walked away.
Yeah.
And he just had this such defeated look on his face.
Right.
And he said, you know what? I debunked myself. I debunked myself.
You know what? Good
I
for
thought,
him.
but I'm like, well, good.
Yeah, but it's good for both. He validated you, and he got his answers. And any true scientist wants an answer, regardless of whether it's in his favor or not. But aren't those the tool that he used to measure all of those? Aren't those also used at airports?
I'm sure they are.
On the tarmacs, I believe they are.
Yeah, I'm sure they're used by our military
piece of equipment.
all
Yeah,
kinds of
it's
stuff
a
that we don't even
fascinating
understand.
piece. Yeah.
All right, we have to take a really quick sponsor and station ID.
I'm rusty.
I gotta
before we get my hand slapped.
I'm rusty. It's just, oh my goodness. Okay, you are listening to The Outer Realm with Michelle Desrochers and Amelia Pisano, coming to you live from the beautiful city of New Orleans on 107.7 FM, as well as the Gulf Coast on 105.3 FM. We are live on the Roku channel and archived as well. Our guest tonight is Reverend John Polk, and he is here discussing ghosts and hauntings and everything paranormal in Sedona. And we had show and tell. So if you're listening and you're just tuning in, you might want to wait for the archive and catch us on YouTube so you don't miss all of the amazing photographs. And there's a video as well. So if you're just tuning in, don't worry about it. You can stream us on our archives, on any platform that you normally use. Search United Public Radio and then The Outer Realm to find us. Remember to click like and subscribe and add us to your playlist so you never miss an episode. Kindly share us with your friends and family. I'd like to thank Michelle, and I are thanking Folgers tonight for your continued support. See, I told you I'm rusty. So, for your continued support and sponsoring our show, we love you. Thank you. 4 years right now. It's amazing. Our fabulous banner and promo media is courtesy of Steve McGinnis. He's a horror illustrator. He's an amazing artist. And Steve also creates commissioned pieces. You can find him on Facebook. Thank you, Steve. Our intro and outro is courtesy of Dr. Snick, the sonic surgeon. I love saying that. Also known as Justin Snicker, award-winning composer, vocalist, and musician. You can find his music on Amazon and Bandcamp. Stream on any platform. Find Dr. Snick on Facebook and Instagram. Thank you, Justin. Use him in your stories. He's got his music there. Lastly, kindly give us a like and subscribe and share us with your friends and family. And if you're on YouTube, hit that like button right now and make sure you subscribe. It's free.
Yeah, free.
There you go. Yeah, it's free. It doesn't cost you anything, and you just gain knowledge.
I know.
Thank you, Folger. Sorry about that. Yeah, that's
boy, oh boy.
That's I haven't been here.
So let's talk about some of your, I won't say scary, but let's just say, because I don't really get scared either, but I do get unnerved. So what are some of your more unnerving experiences within having ghostly or haunting experiences?
Okay, so when I first moved to Sedona, I was getting, let's say, visited a lot. That's for sure. I had evidence of just things on my body.
Oh.
So that was a little unnerving, that's for sure. It did happen to me in Florida, but I think that was more my labs, military labs, but I don't exactly know. Yeah.
Yes.
So one day, I told you I had a free house for 8 months when I first moved here, which is unheard of, but I did. Yeah. And I'm in bed. I'm the only one at my house, and something tells me to go outside. So I go outside and I look up, and there's this massive UFO right over the house. And it was wanting me and allowing me to take pictures of it. And I think when we did the first episode back in January,
you said
I shared that with you.
Yeah,
it was right. It was right over the house, man, and it was tripping me out. And I'm like, I wasn't scared, but I was kind of like, whoa, wow, really? That quickly? And it only happened within a couple of weeks of me moving there.
Right.
And then shortly thereafter, a couple days later, I'm in the house by myself, and something tells me to go outside, but something tells me to go outside through the back door. So I'm walking around the house through the back door, and I look through the carport, and I can see the sidewalk in front of the house. And there's this guy, a very kind of haunting looking figure, smoking a cigarette right on the sidewalk facing me. And I knew he saw me. I know he did. So then I walk to the other side of the house and look around the other corner, and he was there. Boom. The second I got there, still smoking that cigarette, still looking at me. That tripped me out pretty hard.
Right.
And so then a couple days after that, I'm at the house, and they had this motion detector light on the front porch. So I'm just sitting on the couch, whatever. And then there goes the light. And I'm like, oh, somebody's here. And there's nobody there.
Right.
It happens again. Then it happens again. Now I'm starting to get a little freaked out.
Right.
And then the next morning I wake up, and there was 3 apples on the bench, which is on the front porch. And you know who James Gilliland is by any chance? East Ranch in Trout Lake, Southern Washington, Mount Adams. So James Gilliland, he has the East Ranch, which is extraterrestrial something ranch, whatever. And you can pay, but you got to pay, but you can go and camp on his property. You can camp on his property, and UFOs fly around there just as much as they do here.
Wow.
Yes. And so he was the keynote speaker at a conference in which I was the MC. And I tell him the story about the apples. He said, you know what that is, don't you? And I'm like, no, I have no idea. He said, I bet it's Bigfoot. I'm like, really? I'm like, why do you say that? He said, you have an apple tree in the yard. I'm like, we got a couple. Yeah. And he said, if Bigfoot likes you, they're not going to take from you. They're going to ask permission to be able to take it.
And how do you answer? How do you respond to them?
Pitch that apple. No.
No, you might get something back.
The apple.
Don't pitch it.
I would hear stuff in the woods across the street, but it could have been anything. You know, I mean, I've never seen a Bigfoot. I would love to see a Bigfoot.
I think we all would love to see one. I'm just curious. How do you say yes? Take from the tree, please. It's yours.
Well, he said, just go out in the yard and just, with love and light, just say, hey, I love you. If you have
they're telepathic beings.
Yeah. Eat the apples. And Yeah, and so I can't prove any of that, but I can prove the light. I can't even prove that either. But the light was going on and going off and going on and going off, and there was nothing there.
Right.
So you asked, and that was a good way to start. And that was right when I first moved to Sedona.
Right. Well, yeah, I mean, you have to look at Bigfoot almost like a quantum mindset too. Like they can just
Things shapeshift.
like that. Yeah.
Yeah, they're
They
fourth
shapeshift.
dimensional
They can
shapeshifters.
disappear. They can portals.
They're extraordinary. Yeah.
Yeah, and we do have evidence of them. People will say we don't. We have their feces. We've
Mhm.
done DNA on their feces. It doesn't match
Their
any
hair.
primate on the planet. We
Yeah.
have their hair. That
Yes.
doesn't match anything on the planet either, as far as
Mhm.
primates go. And also, they'll make these nests. They'll weave these
Mhm.
nests,
Yeah.
Mhm.
and there's biological evidence of them being in the nests also.
Mhm.
Yes.
Right.
So
And
we
little
do have
juniors.
proof of them. We just can't catch them because they
Right.
just morph out and they're gone.
Right.
I
you know?
always
Right.
feel like they're 10 steps ahead of human beings.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
Yeah. They move a
Yeah.
little quicker, maybe.
I feel like they have that foresight. They can see it coming and they're gone.
Well,
Yeah.
and you get into like just from everything we're discussing, it does sound like everything is intertwined in one form or another. You know, you have
Sure.
UFO activity, you're going to have like, I mean, I'm an experiencer as well. And I have had boatloads of paranormal experiences from being an ET experiencer. Now it makes sense when you realize how everything connects. And the same with cryptids. You know, you
Sure.
live in this place that seems to have its hand on everything. I mean, cryptids, UFOs, ghosts and hauntings, power spots, vortexes, ancient monuments, petroglyphs. I mean, the list goes on. You have a huge indigenous, community that has this amazing folklore and sightings and belief systems that stems back hundreds, thousands of years.
Yeah. So remember the story about the Rendlesham Forest
Yes.
with
Of course.
James Penniston and John Burroughs?
Yes.
So when James Penniston put his hand on that craft, right, he was downloaded with this binary code that was pages long, literally pages long. And it said something to the effect, continuous exploration for planetary advance.
Right.
Eyes to our eyes, and then something else. But then it came up with 7 latitude longitudes, right? One of them was Mount Tai in China. One of them was the Giza Plateau.
Right.
One of them was High Brazil, which used to be on the maps off of the coast of Ireland, and it's not there anymore. One was somewhere in the Amazon rainforest in Belize, Nazca Lines in Peru, and then Sedona was one of those 7 locations that they called the energetic hotspots of the planet. And that came out. So he sat on that information for, I believe, 20 years because he was afraid of character assassination, court martial, losing his pension. And eventually he's like, and he still remembered it. He still remembered it. And the code breaking savant, he basically said, this was not, a bunch of broken binary. This was spelled out perfectly as if he knew how to do it. And so that's a story, one of many stories about Sedona. And Sedona, the red rocks are full of crystal. And then there's mineral rich artesian mountain spring water that flows through aquifers and rivers and goes underneath and through the vortexes. And between the crystal and the mineral rich artesian mountain spring water, it ramps up the conductivity of the vortex energy, which is a spinning energy, right? The electric and magnetic lines cross. We create electricity by rotating magnetic fields. And that's basically what's happening here. And then check this out if you can see this. This is a crystal with a seashell in it. See if you can see that.
Oh, from there. I was just going to ask you, can you take stones from there or do they frown upon?
Oh, it's bad juju.
It's bad juju, Michelle. Really bad juju, Michelle.
Check this out.
She hasn't been to Sedona.
See the seashell in that?
Yes, it's beautiful. Yes.
Okay, so this goes into what you were saying, Michelle, the consciousness, it's all interwoven. So I was helping a friend move years ago, and he had a box of crystals, and he said, do you want one? I'm like, yeah, sure. He's like, wait. Because I was just going to reach in and grab one. He's like, no. Allow it to choose you. And I'm like, you know what? You're right. I wasn't
No.
thinking. So I turned my head and pulled this out. And I'm like, oh, that's unusual. And then I don't know, a year later, if this guy was a merchant marine and I show it to him and he said, you know what that is, don't you? I said, I guess I don't. He said, it's a bivalve. It's a crustacean. It's a seashell. This is fossil evidence that the flood occurred. So where the red rocks are red and the tops of the taller mountains are white, that was all underwater. And then the white tops of the taller mountains, those were islands.
Wow.
Yeah. So a lot of the earth was underwater. All 7 continents have geological proof of it through their strata or lines of erosion.
Right.
But anyway, he's like, I will offer you, I don't know, $500 for this. And I'm like, if you're offering me that much, there's no way I'm selling it to you.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, if it's worth $500.
Right. Well, it chose you too, right? So
yes, exactly. And that's what my buddy was saying. He's like, don't you pick it, allow it to pick you. So I literally kind of dug. I didn't pull off the top. I just stuck my hand under there. Okay, that feels right. And I pulled that out. And I had no idea what I got.
Right.
And it was probably the most valuable crystal out of all the crystals in his box.
Right.
And
no, it is.
This is cool here too. So there was a friend of mine. It was my birthday last year. And he's like, you don't have any turquoise.
I was just going to say, is that turquoise? Because turquoise where you are is exceptional.
Yes.
Oh, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
And so anyway, he's like, you don't have any turquoise. He said, this was gifted to me, so I'm going to gift it to you.
Right.
And I'm like, wow. Okay. And so a friend of mine, him and his parents, he runs it now, but they own the best place in town to buy crystals, which is called Discount Gems and Minerals. And we're at a mutual friend's house. And he's like, dude, let me see that. Pull it off my wrist. And he's like, this was handcrafted by a Hopi. And I'm like, wow, dude. Yes. Because he was helping an elderly Hopi lady. And out of just, kindness of her heart, appreciation, she gifted it to him. He gifted it to me. And my buddy offered me $1,000 for this and said he would turn around and sell it for $2,000. And
especially
I'm like,
when they're signed.
No. And it would be horrible juju for me to sell this thing.
It would be.
Yeah, definitely.
So one day when I'm much older, because I love it, with the second I put this on, I'm like, whoosh, I could feel the energy of the elderly Hopi lady. I totally could feel it.
Well, because, the belief system is you can, especially with jewelry or anything minerals and crystals, because their energy goes into it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
Right.
It has consciousness. That's what whole concept of let it pick you. I'm like, yeah. You're right. I wasn't thinking.
I had a crystal bracelet that I purchased from someone, and I don't like this person, and Michelle cleared it for me because I was ready to toss it. She's like, don't toss it.
Clear this for you.
No, I'm like, be so careful. You have to be careful. No, I am notorious for traveling the world and bringing back soil.
That's why stones. I said she hasn't been to Sedona. It's okay, people.
I have other methods
of my
Sedona stuff because I have not been to Sedona, but I have my ways. So, I know people everywhere. That's all I'm going to say.
Yes.
But, so, okay, on your tour, because I want you to promote your ghost tour and then I'll put up your ad. But so where can you talk about some of the places briefly that you go to or, reviews from people who've been on it? Promote. Let's talk about it because we're coming on to tourist season now. Now's the time, right?
Well, we're just out of the teeth of spring break. So our spring break is over.
Right.
We're still trucking right along. I mean, tourism's been really good. I work with some really good people that know what they're doing. And anyway, I work part-time and anyway, I'm very blessed to have the career that I do. But getting back to where I do my ghost tours only where Sedona is buried. I don't do them anywhere else.
Okay.
Now I've had people ask me to come to their houses. That's for sure.
Right. And what kind of experiences have people on your tour had there?
Okay, that's a great question. So
because you're connected, so you're going to get great experiences. But what about people that have no connection to her? Okay,
so this is an actual testimonial that I could find at some point. but this, I believe it was a girl and her boyfriend or husband. They come on my tour and they said that they went to the Salem, Massachusetts ghost tours.
Right.
Mhm.
And they said they were totally disappointed. And I'm like, why? They said it was more of a history lesson than it was a ghost tour. So I'm getting the flashlights to come on and stuff, which
Right.
does not always happen, to be honest with you.
Right.
But usually I'll set up like 4 of them. And
Mhm.
usually at least one will come on.
Right.
Not always, but almost always, at least one of the 4 will come on, if not multiple ones.
Right.
And we'll sit there and
Very
talk
cool.
to them. We'll talk to them. Hey, Sedona, I love you. I have my friends from, wherever, and they came here to see you. Could you please turn on the flashlight for us?
Right.
And more often than not, it happens. And it's the most satisfying feeling in the world. And when it doesn't happen, you feel like hanging yourself, basically.
Yeah, but
That's not
Sedona
good.
is full of power spots. Salem's not. I've been to Salem, but
Okay.
Right.
the Hawthorne house is
Right. Right.
Anyway, but that was the ultimate flattery that,
Right.
they had gone to Savannah, Georgia, which is very haunted also.
Mhm.
But they're like, this is by far the best ghost tour we've ever been on. Because most of them just try and, base it on history.
I
And
think, but I can understand that, as I've
I
done
can
those
understand it
tours. Yeah,
too.
you have to understand the history of an area to understand why it would be haunted. I
Yeah.
mean, they sort of go hand in hand, much like when you go a step further, you get to, give the history of who Sedona was and what happened to her and so on and so forth, which makes it easier for people to connect with her. Because if you're going to do a communication, you want to know a little bit about her to ask proper questions, not, I mean, if I was a spirit and somebody said to me, "Is there anybody here?" and I'm standing there, I'd be kind of like,
But
you're an
that's
idiot. What am I
That's still
doing?
your personality anyways, though,
Well,
right? Like,
I
that's
know.
our personality, actually.
Yeah,
Not
but you
just
want
hers,
to
mine
ask
too.
tangible questions, right?
Absolutely.
So you want a
Yeah.
little bit of insight.
So what I
And
do
Michelle
is,
has years of experience with that.
what we do is we go to the graves where we have the most success with the flashlights turning on. So that's
Right.
where I start. And I always start at Sedona's. And I explain the history through and through also. So her
Right.
husband is on one side of her, TC, Theodore
Wow.
Carlton, and then their
Right.
daughter Pearl that died at 5.5 years old in a freak
Aw.
pony accident.
Yeah.
Well, that's the reality. And then I
Hard times.
go
Yeah.
over to the Russell family and tell their history. And
Right.
then there's the Parker family. I tell their history.
Right.
And then I go to the Hedges and there's like 10 of them there.
Wow.
And so I tell their history. And then I go to Megan, which was one of the videos I sent you, and tell her history, how she was only 3 months old when she died.
Oh.
And then I go to the Purdymans and tell their history.
Mhm.
And then I go to the Pirtles and tell their history. And then I go to the
Right.
Londons and tell their history. So as we're walking around, do you know what the difference between a graveyard and a cemetery is?
Yes.
Mhm.
Consecrated
Oh, the
ground.
difference. Yeah.
I only learned this a few weeks ago.
What?
Um,
Oh, okay. Yeah. The
So
graveyard.
what is it, Amelia?
No, you go ahead. You're the
Okay,
guest.
so that a graveyard is on a church property and a
Mhm.
cemetery is not.
Right.
And
I
it's
didn't know
sacred
that.
ground. It's hallowed
Right.
ground.
Yeah,
It's
so I'd
blessed.
been using those terms interchangeably for years until this lady, she was a professor from wherever, and she's like, you just said that wrong. It was incorrect grammatically. I'm like, oh, well, I didn't realize it. But I'm like, thank you for correcting
There's an
me.
etiquette.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
you learn from your guests.
You
I've
do.
got people that travel around the world and they'll tell you stuff and
Yeah.
explain stuff to you that
Absolutely.
you didn't know.
Well, that's how
Right.
I knew, is from visiting churches in Italy. I learned when I was about 18.
Okay. Yeah,
So
I learned
it's just,
when I was 54.
yeah, well, I'm 55, so but I mean literally
Right.
because of my mother. Like, that is the difference. It's sacred ground, and that's why a lot of the times what happened was the priests would be buried at the church graveyard
Mhm.
more often than the citizens of the village or
Right. Right.
the city. Yeah.
All right. Last picture is your UFO tours.
Yay.
Promote.
So this is in Discover Sedona magazine, I believe, and forgive me if I'm wrong because it just came out. But anyway, I went back and forth with them over the artwork. I'm like, I want the UFO to pop. I
Right.
want it to pop. I want the beam coming down. I want them to get abducted.
And it pops. I'll
And
tell
they're
you
like,
what.
well, at
Right.
first they're like, it's kind of looking cheesy. I'm like, well, then let's
Let's
talk it
do it.
out and find a UFO that does not look cheesy and fake and stupid.
Right.
So, and the colors, I mean, this is the best ad I think I've ever had for anything I've ever done.
That's
The
beautiful.
colors pop, the
Yes.
yellow and the green, and you can just read it. There's a QR code in the lower right-hand corner, which goes to my website, which is johnpolktours.com.
Right.
I do encourage people to call me. Most people don't do that.
Right.
I'm the kind of person, if I see a phone number I don't recognize, I call it back as soon as possible, because
Right.
I have people from around the country and around the world going on my tours. And very often people will not leave messages, but they're still interested in going, but they're not going to sit around and wait for you either.
Right.
So 407-924-8857, johnpolktours.com or jpolktours@gmail.com. Guaranteed to see UFOs or your money back.
Now
And
that's
then-
interesting, because
Wow.
that's a really strong guarantee.
Yeah.
Good
well,
for
guess how many
you.
people have gotten their money back?
0.
Never,
I'm
ever
psychic.
once.
Wow.
Never,
Zero.
ever once.
Well,
Wow.
that's really
Knock on
impressive.
wood,
I
John.
love
Knock
that.
on wood. Yeah.
I
All right,
love
well,
that. Yeah,
Right.
me too. I'm
Right.
Now,
Southern
that being
Italian.
said-
We're hard-headed.
So I'm Italian too. But
Yeah.
that being said, if it's a cloudy day, I'll say, let's do it anyway. And if you don't
Right.
see anything, don't pay me. Most of the time people will give me something, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
But if it's perfectly clear, 100% guarantee, it's
Right.
easy. It's really easy to do here. I
Right.
have the night vision goggles. They're $4,000 a piece. I have 11 of
I
them.
remember you showed them on the show
Yeah.
last time you were here.
Yeah,
You put them
they're-
on the screen.
Yeah, they're 50,000 times what the human eye can see.
Those are incredible.
Yeah, and I have the satellite app, and then I have the Star Finder. I can show you all that stuff. And you do,
Right.
like you said multiple times, you do have to apply science to this. That's for sure.
Right. Right.
Apply science to it.
Aw.
Because, well, when I first started years ago, everything was a UFO. I mean, and
Right.
you make mistakes, and if you don't learn from it, you just keep making the same mistake. So
Right.
I learned-
Absolutely, but
I
it's
learned
nice.
and changed my
Right.
narrative and learned some more about the science. I actually had satellite technicians come on my tour with me and not tell me who they were, and they were testing me.
Right.
They were testing me, and the one guy, he was from Europe. Figured that. He said, I was
Right.
tasked with basically spying on you and all your competition, and you're
Oh
the
my
only one who got
gosh.
it right. Well, and he
Wow.
said, you're the only one who got it right. Nobody else got it right. Even the guy who claims to be a satellite technician, he got it completely wrong also.
Right. Right.
But here's another thing. Most satellites don't move. People think they do, but most of them don't, so I have this friend who works on towers. So he will literally climb the towers and set up the computer so that the dish points to the satellite. So if the dish moves, if the satellite moves, then the dish loses its signal, and then you lose your Wi-Fi, you lose your cell phone. First end responders, police, they lose their communications, military, black ops bands that we don't have the ability to pick up. All that's compromised. So most satellites don't move.
Right.
And that's what he taught me also, that you climb these towers, you deliberately point the dish to the satellite for obvious reasons,
Mhm.
and the satellite is fixed in an orbit which is 17,000 miles an hour as the Earth spins at 17,000 miles an hour. So in
Mhm.
effect, it is moving, but it's locked in the orbit, so it's not going
Right.
to move away from where they're pointing at it, and that's done on purpose. And when I
Right.
learned that, I was like, wow, because that's the number one argument you got to deal with is satellites.
Right.
But that's okay. I'd rather people ask me the hard questions than just sit on it and not say anything,
Right.
so that
No,
we can
I
all
agree.
talk about it. And I show them the satellite app anyway. I'm like,
Right.
yeah, we can see the ISS. Yes, we can see the Hubble. Yes, we can see Kepler. Yes, we
Mhm.
can see Webb. All these
Right.
telescopes. We can
Right.
see that
That's
stuff.
amazing.
Right.
Yeah. Well,
And
you have
I
to-
love your
that's not-
energy and your passion. You're so
Oh,
you're
thank you.
so it's so contagious.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. We've done 3 shows together. This is the 3rd one. And
yes.
what I really love about both of you is that you interview me so well. A lot of people will not ask me the right questions.
Mhm.
They won't know the right questions to ask or the right comments,
Mhm.
to add into the interview. But both of you do a fantastic job.
Oh, thank you.
And I
Thank
brag
you.
about you guys,
Oh,
actually.
thank
Aw.
you.
You ladies, you're not guys.
Yeah.
Thank you. No, and we're not going down that road, that rabbit hole either
Yeah,
today.
anyway, but yeah, I
Well,
talk about you ladies. I let all
Oh,
my
thank
friends
you.
know.
Well,
You know,
hopefully one
Yeah.
day we'll be in Sedona to. We have a few of our guests that we would love to meet and get everybody
everybody's
together
in
down there.
Sedona lately. It's like,
Yeah,
what? We should have it's a
yeah.
party. It's a party.
Can you imagine the connections we could make
No.
all
yeah,
together? Like that
absolutely.
would be fascinating.
Well,
Well,
I'm going to introduce you to all the players in town too. I met Michelle through Deborah Thunderbeat,
yeah,
Yes.
Deborah's
who's an
great.
incredibly powerful spiritual
Deborah's
healer.
Yes.
so I
Through
love her.
toning
Yeah.
and her drumming, and she's
Yes.
totally for real.
Highly
You know.
recommended you, and that's just
Yeah.
how we connected, and that's
Yeah.
how we connect with a lot of people. It's
We
just
love her.
you know, you have
Yeah, me
people
too.
who you think our listeners would love, or that you think you could collaborate with. You have an open door policy, John. So, anytime you'd like to come on, we definitely could always make that happen. And
Oh, that's
it's
great.
always a pleasure.
Yeah, so Thunderbeat has another conference coming up
Yes.
in October. It's the 11th through the 13th, and it is, I should know what it's called. Let's see. Cosmic Awakening. There we go.
Wow.
So I've been
nice.
her UFO guy since I met her too.
I love
Right.
that. Her
So
UFO
her
guy.
and Suzanne Ross, I get 80% of all the major conferences,
Right.
which is just the highest honor. And I'm just very respectful and
It's humbling, isn't it?
blessed to be able to do what I do for a living.
Right.
We'll be doing
Right.
UFO, and I'm like, hey, this is my office. I'm working right now.
What an
Right.
amazing life, right?
It's great. It's great.
Yeah, but I'm like, you
You
have
live in
to,
an
you have to
incredible place.
Yeah, I'm like,
You
you
live
have
in
to
a-
let this soak in, because when we talk to them and we get them to pulse, I've told you about
Yeah.
that, or vanish, or even
Yes.
change direction. Very often we see orbs, we see fairies, we see weird lights, and shooting stars and stuff we can and cannot explain. That's for sure.
Right.
So yeah, and it's it's it's
Mind
unbelievable.
blowing. It's mind blowing.
Words cannot alone describe how powerful and blessed of an existence I have in this town. I couldn't imagine living anywhere else.
Oh, I love that. I love that because it is a very exceptional place. And from what we're coming to see, it's filled with exceptional people, yourself included. And, thank you for doing all of that, because it's just, it's what makes it that much more special. It's people who really are connected to it and really believe
Mm.
in it and have a passion about teaching, because people can go through the motions and show and tell and the whole 9 yards, but you have to have a passion to really want to teach people, because you care about people having an experience, and that makes all the difference.
Yeah, it's the greatest satisfaction in my life,
Right.
and I love to affect people for the rest of their lives.
Right.
I want them to go home and go, we went on John's tours,
Right.
his Vortex, his Ghost,
Right.
his UFO tours. And I love it when the skeptics, because if they're a skeptic, I'm like, I need a testimonial from you.
Right.
I want
Right.
you to
I
admit
love-
that you're a skeptic, and I want you to admit that you saw something.
Yeah.
Right.
Skeptics are good. And I think it's important to be a little skeptical nowadays,
It is.
especially with CGIs and AI
Mhm.
and everything. You need to be, but be
Absolutely.
polite about it. That's all I'm saying. It's
Exactly.
okay to disagree. Just don't be rude.
So the thing
Well-
with a skeptic is, a skeptic has to be right every single time.
Well, I'm
Some-
skeptical, but I don't have to be right. I don't have
Right.
to be right. I enjoy
I only
being
have to be
proven
right
wrong.
once.
Yeah.
I only have to be right once.
Right.
Yeah. I'm going to
Well-
quote you. I'm putting that on X. Such an angry place.
Oh boy. Other show. We are at the top of the hour.
Yes,
It is
literally.
time for us to
Oh,
say
man.
good night.
I didn't
Literally.
realize what time it was. Jeez.
But I know time flies when you're having fun, and we definitely had so much fun with you. And thank you so much again for joining us. Guys, check out John's other 2 shows. You can find them right here on the channel. You can also find them on UFO Paranormal Radio channel on YouTube as well, and UFO Gods and Extraterrestrials. So lots of places to check them out. And John, I will be in touch, and I really hope we can do this again. It would be fantastic.
Yeah, I'd love it. Like I said, you all interview me perfectly, and it's fun. We're having a conversation, and it's organically manifested.
Yeah.
That's the whole idea.
It's kind of like just hanging out with with friends and having a parlay.
Yeah,
it's great.
I love learning, so thank you so much, especially for show and tell. It's my favorite part.
All right. Well, have a great evening, because you still have your evening ahead of you.
Stop bragging.
I have UFO like as soon as we're done here.
Oh, fantastic.
I have people on the patio.
Take pictures.
I know. Take lots of pictures.
Yes, I always do.
Stay
All
safe.
Right. Thank you, John.
Thank you.
Thank you, ladies.
Thanks for joining. Bye-bye. Well, we have come to the end of another wonderful segment. Big thank you to John Polk for taking the time to converse about everything that is Sedona and everything it encompasses, and the ghosts and the Wendigos and everything else. Always interesting to learn about folklore and information from other locations that I haven't visited yet. So anyway, also big thank you to Folgers Coffee. Big thank you to Dr. Snick, the sonic surgeon, Justice Snicker. Big thank you to Steve McGinnis. Big thank you to United Public Radio Network. Guys, check out Roku for our archive as well. Don't just limit yourself to YouTube. If you have a Roku account, we are there. I did flash it across the screen at the end of the show. Please check it out. So tomorrow night, we welcome back Constance Victoria Briggs, who brought us the moon's galactic history, a look at the moon's extraterrestrial past and its connection to Earth, while she continues her exploration into our cosmic connections with her companion book, newly released, Earth's Galactic History and its Extraterrestrial Connection. So it's going to be a great show, and we'll see you guys all in chat tomorrow. Thank you all for tuning in. We love you in the chat room. You guys are awesome. You make it that much better. So good night. We'll see you tomorrow.